think I figured it out. Why, hello, everybody. We are back. It's Friday. It's forum time. Might as well do it. And I'm Elias Acuna at HeSellsHouses. Arlene, the Realtor. How are you doing?
Doing good. It's nice to be back.
Doing good. Yeah, it is nice to be back, isn't it?
Yeah, feels like we said that the last few times because we had long gaps in between.
Yes, exactly. Let me not crazy us overrun us here with the music here. I always have trouble figuring out the right volume for this thing. All right, hold on. I was just changing some settings and actually messing around with this thing. Here we go. Boom.
There you go. Now we see some stuff.
There we go. I think I got us. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Night Forum. We have a few things we're going to go over today. As always, we like to go over the market. Little market update, Massachusetts, Hampden County. And a couple of other things we're going to talk about today. Going to talk about why do we have so many buyers? Why is there such a lack of inventory right now?
What the hell is going on?
Yeah, right. What's going on? How did we get here? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We've got some statistics for you. We're going to talk about rentals, talking about housing affordability, kind of a long conversation. So we'll see how long we actually end up going. If not, maybe we'll spill into a whole nother day. But right off the bat, let's go into market updates. All right. So let me see if I can actually go ahead and share my screen. Share screen. Boom. All right. So what do we got here? This is a Massachusetts year-to-date market update. This will actually include everything in Massachusetts from the beginning of the year to today, and it compares the last 5 years. We always like doing the 5-year comparison. That way it gives you an idea of where we've been, which kind of gives you some context of where we are right now. And so again, this is for all of Massachusetts. As we can see, listing inventory as of March 11th. In 2018, as of today, there were 7,926 houses available. Whereas today in Massachusetts on the MLS, we've only got 2,284 homes available at the moment. So again, a very, very low inventory. And it's always tough to explain this to buyers. You know, when you're telling people, hey, there's not a lot of houses out there. It's not until you show these types of numbers and they see, oh my goodness, there really is a drastic reduction in the amount of available homes. Versus even last year where it was a strong seller's market, we only had 2,899 single families available at this time last year. And again, we have a reduction, from that. The average days on the market, again, shows you that houses are actually selling faster. Right now in Massachusetts, the average days on the market is 65 for single family homes versus 87 last year. And if you go back, again, to what was more for normal market, it was well over 100 in terms of the average days in the market for a seller to actually sell a house. So again, showing you how crazy the market is actually favoring the sellers right now. So another one, approximate months of supply. So right now in all of Massachusetts, we have just over half a month, 0.52 months. Yeah. When it comes to the available single-family inventory on the MLS.
So again, real quick for the people listening, what does that mean?
What does that mean? That means if at the current rate of sale, if no new houses come on the market in Massachusetts, then all the properties will be sold in half a month, in about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, right? Yeah. So that's not a lot of inventory out there, guys. So again, very strong demand, a lot of buyers out there. not a lot of houses compared to years past. Okay. So what kind of effect does this have on the market? Obviously, this is going to, favor sellers, as we've all been seeing. But if we go down to our sales price, we can see that our average sale price as of today for a single family home in Massachusetts is $647,000. It's almost a $50,000 increase from the same time last year. So again, in all of Massachusetts, we're looking at a significant increase in value because of the lack of inventory and the high demand. All right, so we do have a question on here. So do you think inventory will go up in the summer for the busy season? So, we always see inventory increase, springtime and early summer. And the reason being is just that it's just a part of the season, with the school transfers. A lot of people try to do that transfer at the springtime. It's also nice to see houses. So there's typically more buyers out there during the spring. A lot of people are trying to buy at the same time. So it all just kind of works out where a lot of people end up doing the springtime. And in Massachusetts, or at least in our area, it's typically April, May, and June in terms of the highest number of offers going out, April, May, and June. And then in terms of closings, it's typically June, July, and August. So it's like, 2 months behind, essentially. And that's kind of everywhere. It's typically seasonal in this sense. But the way that the market's been for the past couple of years, what is really an increase in inventory? Right. So let's say let's say we do have a small increase. We're still going to have a lacking inventory in terms of the amount of buyers that are actually out there. Any houses coming on the market is definitely going to alleviate, some of the demand. But we also have to keep in mind that we also usually see more buyers at that time of year. So you never know.
Yeah,
do we think what's going on?
It'd be better to even look at when do we foresee the rate of buyers going down?
Exactly.
Than worrying about the inventory being added.
So, with stuff going on around the world, that's always a tough one, because obviously we see rising costs all around. If we start seeing hyperinflation, which, this is something that the association was talking about a couple of years ago, when COVID first happened, they came out as talking about the effects of everything that was going on. And part of their discussion was that their expectation is that we would start to see some inflation between 2 to 5 years. So we're already over that 2-year mark at this point in terms of what they were talking about. Mm-hmm. So if we see the cost of everything go up, the cost of even buying that could even affect, just the building, all that stuff. But we've got high demand. So you might see some people not be in the market, but there's still so many buyers out there that, we could definitely benefit by having a little bit less demand, because you could actually get to the point where, let's say, things just become so expensive and only a small amount of people can actually afford that thing now, but there's enough of them out there to keep that market going. The number of sales will go down all around, so agents would be selling less houses. There'd be less transaction going on all around. You'd have a lot more people renting, obviously, at that point. But I think you'd also, one of the things I was thinking about the other day is with our lack of inventory is, we've already been seeing these multi-generational houses. I think that's going to really start to kick into high gear where we're going to see a lot more people multi-generational living in homes together, not just, grandparents, but maybe even, brothers and sisters in terms of families, joining forces and buying a house, larger property or multi-families together and stuff like that. All right. So let's see what we got here. So again, to support the idea, again, it's a strong seller's market. If we're looking here at price changes. So as of today in Massachusetts, only 472 houses had to do a price reduction. Right now, last year, the same time, 526. And a couple of years ago, we were well over 1,000 in terms of, the people needing to actually do a price reduction, the people that actually did a price reduction. Closed units, we can see that's actually down versus last year. And it's actually a little bit lower than what we saw before. But again, some of that is because of that funnel, right? There's not enough houses for the number of buyers that are actually out there. So it slows down in terms of what that demand can actually eat up if there's nothing there to eat. And And then let's see here, listing units listed. So again, in the previous 12 months, this is what 12 months activity, previous 12 months of today, there's over 59,000 properties that had been listed. 12 months prior to the same day last year, over 60,000. And again, years past, you were closer to 70,000 in terms of the number of houses that we were typically seeing listed on the market. So again, not a lot of houses out there. All right. So let's see here. Let's show. This is Hampden County. All right. So once you start getting on a little bit of a smaller scale, kind of helps you grasp some of these numbers a little bit better. But listings, again, in Hampden County, as of today, 187, whereas a few years ago, we had over 600, close to 700 properties that were available at any time. Month supply, again, down to just that half a month supply. So again, if no new houses come on the market, everything in Hampden County will be sold in about half a month. All right. So not a lot of houses available in terms of the number of buyers that are actually out there. Okay. Listing units taken. Again, we've taken less listings versus years past, 646 so far this year versus 701 last year and 800 plus for the years prior. Closed units. Again, less houses closed this year versus last year. But again, not a lot of houses out there. Average days on the market, 36 versus 52 last year. So houses are flying off the shelves here. And then we look at the average sale price, $291. That's a $30,000 increase from the same day last year. So again, as of today, in Hampden County, year to date sold, the average is $291. Whereas year to date, the same day last year was $261, $30,000 increase. So again, we're seeing still a big increase in price. Now, when we look at this, like last year, do you remember our conversations last year, this time last year, about how crazy the market was? And that's where we were.
That's where we were. Yeah. I'm like, this is all familiar.
It's even it's even crazier, right? So it's definitely a stronger market. It's going to favor sellers a lot more than even what we saw last year. It's kind of one of those things where we're kind of getting to unpredictable land, because if there really becomes 0.25 months of inventory, like there really are no houses.
There are no. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
What do you do, right? Okay. So let's actually look at multifamilies. So let's see here.
My existence right now.
Okay, so this is Massachusetts. Multifamily. Again, so it's the same trend that we saw with single families. It's not quite as crazy because we actually have 0.86 months of supply.
Oh yeah,
multifamilies
right now.
It's a big difference. So right now in Massachusetts, 622 multifamilies available on the MLS versus 100 more that last year. There was 100 more properties available last year, the same time. So again, 100 less right now. And then over 1,000 a couple of years ago in terms of what your choices were as a buyer. If you were out purchasing a multifamily house, you had almost twice as many houses to choose from just a few years ago. So again, right now, 0.86 months supply of inventory. Let's see here. Closed units, 1186. Average sale price, $667 on a multifamily, whereas last year was $573. Okay. And again, listing units, we can actually see that there's more multifamilies that came on in the last 12 months versus the year before. But we know part of that was because during COVID, there was a lot of restrictions in terms of tenants and a lot of issues there. But it's nice that we're actually getting more houses on the market, but the inventory is still not meeting the demand, right? And I think part of this multifamily demand is the multi-generational buyers. Right, we were just talking about. So, you've got a lot of families that are owner occupants that are purchasing multifamilies as opposed to investors. So that drives up the demand, drives up the price. All right, so this is actually just for Hampden County. So right now in Hampden County, there were 55 multifamilies on the market, 0.72 month supply of inventory. And let's see here, average sale price, $282,000. Last year was $258, the same date. The year before that was $242. I mean, that's a $40,000 difference just from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So again, seeing a market that's been favoring the sellers. All right.
That's nuts.
That is nuts. All right. Last one. I've got Springfield. Seeing multifamilies. 32 multifamilies on the market in Springfield as of today. Again, 3 times as that just a couple years ago. 0.75 month supply. And then average sale price is up to $283 in Springfield. From last year was $251. That's over $30,000 increase in last year.
Pre-COVID.
Sorry?
Pre-COVID,
look at that. 2018.
Look at that.
2000. If you bought your multifamily in 2019, just a few years ago, guys,
you got $100,000 in equity right there.
Over $100,000 in equity gain. For the average property.
That is absolutely.
No, that is crazy. I mean, it's great for sellers.
For sure.
Own properties, or if you can continue to hold on to your property, that's definitely great. It's not so great for buyers, right? Not so great for buyers. So, all right. So one of the things, let's see here. We were going to talk about, this kind of comes up to like, well, how do we get to this? Like, how do we get here? Right? Like, how does this even happen that we're in this situation where there's just like a ridiculous shortage in terms of what's actually available? And it just seems mind-boggling that how did we get to this point where it's just not enough houses? And this is not something that just happens overnight. It's something it's taken a while for us to actually get to this point. And this, it's actually going to bring up to a couple of different articles. And let me actually see if I can pull this up. What did I
have us on my Instagram? I put while you're figuring that out, and people are listening to us.
Oh, the listening?
Yeah,
Good. All right. So let me see if I can pull up some of the stuff that we got here. Okay. All right. So, boom. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Bam. All right. So we talk about, well, how did we get here? How did we end up in this situation? So one of the things is it's just sheer numbers in terms of population growth, and how we were able to even keep up with that. And so these are some figures. January 2012 through June 2021, there were 12.3 million new American households formed. Okay. So this is 12.3 million new people that are looking for a place to live. Now we're talking about households. It could be a single person moving out on their own. It could be a family that's created, roommates that are splitting up, and then they're each getting their own apartment. But again, 12.3 million new households. So again, new housing situations are needed, right? During that time, that same period of time, we only built 7 million homes. Okay, so simple math: 12.4 million new households, new housing needs, 7 million new homes. So we were short already 5 million homes just in that time period. Now, this is something that even prior to this, we were short in terms of the new homes that we were building versus the number of households that were actually being created. And we've actually got Hold on here. Oh, wrong one. I wrote this one down instead. So right now, today, from today, moving forward to 2028, they're expecting roughly 7.3 million new households. That's just in the next like 5-6 years. Okay. Yeah. The 10 years beyond that, from 2028 to 2038, we're talking about another estimate of another 9.6 million new households. So again, through 2038, we're talking about 17 million added new households that we're gonna need in terms of what people are gonna need for housing, and we are not currently building at a rate that can actually meet that demand.
What the hell is gonna happen?
Yeah, we're not keeping up with it. No. So this is part of the issue that we're seeing is that, again, there's just a massive amounts of people when it comes to population, right? Populations have been rising for quite a bit of time. Mm-hmm. And if you don't build new houses, well, then where is everybody supposed to live? Right. And if there's a limited amount of homes in terms of single family homes, and you have an increase of just sheer people, even if this percentage of the people that are interested in homes stays the same, the number of people increases. So you're always going to have more people interested in buying just the same limited number of houses. So until we address the problem of actually building new homes or building, housing, we're going to continue to see this issue. We could potentially continue to see this for a while.
We need to figure out how to manufacture houses quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. So now part of this then brings us to the conversation of like rents, right? Why would somebody, rents, going up or have been going up too. So, that also increases demand because, people start looking at the cost of renting. And now let's start talking about that. So the median rent. So this is talking about what the median rent has been since 1992, this one. And I have an article I'm going to pull up, and we have rents going back to like 1940. But if you're looking at this, just since 92, right? If you bought a house in 92, right, you lock in terms of what your mortgage payment's going to be, right? And then you live there forever long it's going to be. You're locked in. And that's the great thing about buying. With renting, your rent can go up. You don't know how long you're going to be there, right? You could obviously be evicted at any time if they decide they want to sell the house. You don't have the same types of securities, but the cost is expensive, especially when you consider the fact that there's no return in the end, right? You don't get to sell the house at the end. You don't get to utilize the house as some sort of tool in the future. So right now, if you look at rents since 1992, rents have increased over 231%, right? And so just going back 92, rents were $474, the average rent. Again, the median rent. This is nationally throughout the country. 2002, the median rent was $658. In 2012, the median rent was $867. And in October 2021, the median rent in the country was $1,104.
I think even next year we're going to see an increase in that. Number.
Yeah, we're going to see an increase in that this year. So rent prices have increased an average of 8.86% per year since 1980. All right. So, again, if you see that the rent doesn't have the same stability as buying, renting doesn't have the same stability as buying, and also that the cost could continually go up. You don't know what it could potentially end up being. 8.86% per year since 1980. That's crazy. So you had, do you have that other slide, or can you grab that or no?
It's in the shared file.
All right, hold on, let me grab it.
Can you grab it? If not, I think I could.
What was it called? Serena.
Buyer. Yeah, that was the one.
All right. Okay. All right. So we're talking. This was an example that you had, right? Hold on.
Yes.
Okay. So this was Serena and versus Tanya. So we've got rents for 1,400. Do you want to do this, or when I click?
So I mean, I can run through this first part though. So I had it at rent $1,400 for Serena, and the mortgage for Tanya is $1,400 as well. This is a base mortgage. This does not include like taxes or anything else that would normally be included in your mortgage payment when you pay monthly, anything that goes into your escrow. So this is just the mortgage itself. A few weeks ago, I looked at the hey, I'm Tanya. I looked up the rates a couple weeks ago and it's at 4.37. So I used that number, and then 280K. So that for 280,000, your mortgage would be 1,400 at 4.37%. So they started off the same. All right. And then we can, did I put anything on the bottom? I can't see I thought I put something in there.
Oh, yeah. I could just scroll down. That's what it was.
All right. So that's day one. And they're both super excited. One got a new rental. They're all excited because they're moving to someplace new. After the first year, I should have showed like happy faces. So after the first year, together they both paid $16,800 in mortgage and in rent. The difference is Serena didn't gain any kind of equity, and Tanya gained a little bit. We don't know how much because it all depends on their situation.
When she sells,
yeah. So next one. All right. So Serena experienced a rent increase, and that year the increase was to $1,450, and that year she paid $17,400. And Tanya is on a fixed mortgage rate, so her payment did not change at all. So she continues to pay the $16,800. If you scroll down a little bit, now you're going to start seeing the totals that they have paid so far. So after 2 years, Serena has paid $34,200, and Tanya has paid $33,600. Again, the difference is the renter Serena has no equity, and Tanya is continuing to build her equity.
Next one.
Oh, she got another rental increase. So that year to $1,500, and that year she paid $18,000. And Tanya remains the same. And their totals after 5 years, Serena has paid $87,000, no equity, and Tanya has paid $84,000 and is continuing to gain equity. Now we're going to start seeing the numbers get a little, you're going to really see the difference in the numbers. So she got another rental increase at 10 years to $1,600. Total paid for the year, $19,200, and Tanya stays the same at the $16,800. Total $178,200 for Serena, and now we're seeing the difference with Tanya at $168,000, and this is after 10 years.
Yeah, so 10 years. So again, Tanya locked in her payment is what's the important key thing here. And with rent, we don't know what that's going to be in the future. Typically, again, on average, been going up 8.86% per year. So it's not uncommon so that you're there for 5 or 10 years that you're going to see these types of increases in your rent.
And when I did this, I wasn't taking into account the 8.8%, whatever it was, because it's so random that I was like, yep, it's going to increase. So after 20 years, she's paying $1,800. And that's $20,400 a year, no equity, and that totals $378,000. And then Tanya, still the same, has gone to $336,000. So there we're really seeing the difference after 20 years. But the biggest difference that you don't see, because it's hard, you can't determine it right now, is the amount of equity. We're seeing not only is this number higher, she's not gaining any sort of equity. And
So this is
then now they're old ladies. Now they're 30 years later. The rent increased to 1,900, which is 22,800 a year, and still no equity. And that's a total of 599,400. And Tanya paid off her mortgage, and total has paid $504,000. And I want, like, if anybody's really watching, is these numbers that we can talk about these later, because when we start showing the cost of mortgages from years ago to now, to see, like, you're not just paying $280,000 for a house. She's paid $504,000 for a house. So you can't just look at that purchase price. Overall, it's still way more money than you can imagine. All right, next one. And then at 35 years, Serena's still paying rent, and that number keeps going up. Now she's at 713,400. It's time for her to go to a nursing home.
But also, she's not paying that 16,800 anymore. The Tanya.
Oh yeah, Tanya's not paying. She's done. She had 504.
Yeah. So we could take those out. So not those years. Again, that's right. You haven't added it up anymore. So after 40 years, again, her payments have stopped. She still stopped, but you're now up to 827,000
so now,
for 40 years.
This is where it gets real grim. All right.
Yeah.
Pass away. And
no property or inheritance, paid $827,000 to live in a property for 40 years.
Property was inherited. Tanya's family inherited the property, and they were able to sell it for $450,000. And that helped set them up for their future. LOL. I think that was about the nursing home.
I like the
nursing home joke. So you see the huge difference between renting and buying.
Yeah. Big difference. Hold on here.
But now we need to look at this one. So this is where people get tripped up.
Hold on.
You're doing the average rent. All right.
This was the average rents. Yeah, I just wanted to. Is this going to let me do this right now? Oh, you're going to be a pain in the butt. So let's just look back. People are like, prices of houses go up and down, right? And you're thinking, is the rental market the same? Right? Is it subject to the same crazy fluctuations sometimes? Well, not so much. This is going back to 1940. Okay.
Was that $27?
Going back 1940, you can get $27.
Oh man.
So, but going back and looking at his historical median monthly rents. Now, yes, there was a slight drop here around 2000.
There too, a little more.
And then a slight drop here around 2008, 2000. That's when the market really crashed because the prices are so low. People could afford to rent it so cheap, probably. But other than that, we don't see the same. We don't see the same. Fluctuations that we do with the with prices, and that's because rent's one of those things where once you get somebody to pay a certain amount, you're gonna lower the rent.
Yeah,
right. They're already paying it.
Right, you're just gonna go up. You're only going up.
Yeah, you only go up with the rent. So
yeah.
I suspect those drops that we're seeing there are probably just typical of massive amounts of inventory coming on. That was monopoly money. Yeah, exactly. Around that time, that was monopoly money. So, and again, the average rent has increased all these years. This is going back. You can see the annual changes over there. And more recently, hold on here. 2020 from 2019, it was a 3% increase. Most recent a big increase nationally was 2015. But
I think we're going to get the new numbers for 2021 and 2022, and we're going to see a greater increase because there has been these rentals are really tough to find right now, and people are charging ridiculous rents, and there's nowhere to go. People are paying it.
Yeah, it is crazy. Okay, so we do have some other stuff that we're going to get into. So this, now that we've talked about rents, again, how did we kind of get to this whole situation, and what does this all mean, and kind of, how do we interpret some of this information? So again, lack of inventory, just not enough houses available. We've been short for quite a long time. So this is a problem that's been building over a long period of time. Rents have been going up. So again, that increases people that would prefer to buy something. So again, that demand was increased there as well. Just by the sheer fact that rent was so high, and that there's so many more people, right? So the other part that drives demand is affordability. Okay, so this is kind of the other end. We've kind of talked about inventory, and part of the demand portion is, again, because of the rent, but the other portion is that houses are still historically affordable, which is hard to understand this portion. And I know I've got like just a whole bunch of numbers on the screen in front of everybody, and people are just like, what is that? Like, they can't even read any of this stuff. But this is not going to be the most important part right now. What's going to be important is what I'm about to show you now.
Let the professionals break this down for you.
So
that's why we have jobs.
Let me go ahead and bring out some of this. Here we go. Housing Affordability Index. It is going to change the market. Yeah, it's changing. It's changing everything. I think essentially we're going to see hyperinflation, where the cost of everything is going up right now. And it could change the market in terms of decreasing some of that demand. But again, we could even benefit from seeing a decrease in demand, because the demand is so high and the inventory is so low. It could actually potentially help, with buyers and everything.
Which is weird to think about.
Which is weird. It can help buyers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that prices are going to come down. They could just continue to remain. Yeah. But this is one of those things that you have to consider when we're talking about all of this. It's the housing affordability. And when we're talking about housing affordability, it is, as an individual, this doesn't apply to like the individual person. Because, typically for most people, you're going to, you get your career, that's the job or whatever it is that you're going to do. And then that's what you're going to make for like the next, 10, 20 years or whatever it is. Right. So most people aren't typically seeing a big increase in their income every year. Right. And so when you think about how prices have increased, right, for somebody who's been locked into what their income is and all that stuff for some time, houses don't seem affordable because your income stayed the same and the prices of houses have gone up. Right. So it is easy to think, oh, wow, houses are just not affordable. But I can tell you they are. And the reason that I can tell you that they are is because when we talk about the Housing Affordability Index, we're talking about like the typical family at the moment versus the typical house. And what it is the conversation about housing affordability is, if the average family right now, based on what the average family is making, went to go buy the average house, like, how affordable is it? Right. So it's not saying for you, the person that is locked in and whatever you're making, it's for, that person, based on what today's income is. And that changes, every month, right? Because that fluctuates in terms of new jobs and the economy and all that stuff. So right now, if we talk about what the Housing Affordability Index is, in order to come up with the number, right, this is how you figure it out. Right? So you take the median family income, right, at that time, and you divide it by the qualifying income for the median priced home. Right now, this may sound confusing, but as after we get through this, I think you guys will better understand, because we have a couple of different slides that might kind of help you understand this. So again, typical family, what they're making right now, divided by, how much money you need in order to buy the typical house today. Okay. Does that make sense?
How much money you need to be making in order to buy the house.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Versus how much the normal company, normal family is making, right? So whatever the normal family is making divided by how much money you actually need to buy, the median priced house right now. All right. They multiply that by 100 and they come up with these numbers. So that was, what this, all of this stuff is. All right. So it comes up with this whole list of all these numbers. These are all the different calculations. This is the median priced house at that time. This is what the mortgage rate is. They then have like what the payment is, how much the incomes are, and then they do it all out. And then again, this is where we get all the information. So, again, the median family income divided by the qualifying income times 100. All right. So housing affordability index. All right. So if we're going back to 1990 and we're looking at how affordable houses are, the higher the number, the more affordable a house is. Hola from Florida.
Hola.
So the higher the number, the more affordable a house is. Okay. So back in 1990, right, the number was 107, right? So that basically means, that the average family was making 107% of the amount of money they needed in order to actually buy the average house at that point.
And then to add to that, this is 107% of what it takes to buy a house, but you have other expenses. So
yes.
they're really stretching themselves thin in order to purchase a house.
Yeah, they may not even be able to qualify for the house. They're just, again, what you need versus what the income is. They're not saying that average family can actually qualify for that house. Again, just how much you would need versus what's actually out there. So the number is just giving you a gauge in terms of how much of their money they'll need. And again, the next slide kind of explains it a little bit nicer. But again, this is what the actual index is. So again, the higher the index is, the more affordable houses are. So 107, 95, 125, and 2000, 121, 2005, 112. So you had a decent amount of time, and even going before 1990, so it was almost 20 years where this index was 120s and lower. Okay, now we see that houses started to get a little bit less affordable here, right? And then what happened between 2005 and 2010? Yeah, market crashed, right? So the market dropped out, and so houses were going up, becoming less affordable here, right? And then market dropped out, prices went down, and what happened? All of a sudden, houses became as affordable as they ever were. As affordable as they ever were. And so we were way up there in terms of affordability. Even this, as the affordability went down, again, because the average income, may have gone down versus the price, that relationship there, they're still historically more affordable than what they were in the past. In 2020, we were at 170.8. And as of last year, it was 155.7. Okay. So again, you're thinking they aren't as affordable as they were 10 years ago. Okay. And they aren't as affordable as they were, last year, the year before. But they are still affordable historically. Okay. So next one. So this is a little bit different way to look at this. So these are those same numbers, but done a little bit differently. So how much of your income does the average family need to buy the average house right now? All right. Back in 1990, the average family needed at least 23% of their income in order to buy that average house. In 95, it was at least 20% of your income. In 2000, 20%. 2005, 22.2%. 2010, down to 14.5% is what you needed of the average family, the average house, average income, or median income. 2015, down to 15%. 2020 down to 14 again, almost as affordable as it was way back, when the market had crashed. So again, houses are still very affordable. And 2021, 17%. 17%. Okay. Now let's go back to what we have.
See, this number, that explaining it that way makes more sense to me than doing the larger numbers.
That's how they do it, though. And
no, I
that's just
mean,
how
I
they run it.
understand it, but
It's
to me,
interesting. Yeah.
the other way makes more sense especially if you're not in real estate and know the business at all. That number I would go to first before explaining the other one.
What we can do is we go here. We can see that number here, right? And so if we go back to 89, this only goes back to 89, 23%, 23%, 20s, 19s is all in the 90s, 20%, 19s, 20s.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until 2007, then it went down to 18, and then 2009 down to 14. Right. So, in terms of our percentage, again, now that we're still at, where are we at in the 2020, 14%. And then now again, we're at 17%. We're still more affordable than what we were before the crash.
Now we have to explain why or what, because with the prices skyrocketing, how can it be more affordable?
Yeah, well, again, because the incomes have gone up. And that's why it's really hard to see that. So, what it is that younger families that are coming into the market are making more money, right? And so again, if you've been making the same amount of income for the last 10 years and you're not getting an increase in pay necessarily every year, to you, it's gonna seem like everything's just becoming unaffordable, because to you it is, because your median income is not changing with the market. It's just locked in. So even though the median income is going up, yours is still the same. And because the price is going up, the houses are just not affordable for you anymore. But again, as a whole, we got 12 million households that formed in the last 10 years. So again, a lot of new people that are out there who are able to pay rent, who are able to pay mortgages. You go with the median income for that group now, houses are actually affordable. Yeah.
And can we go back to that chart the last one we just had up with all the numbers?
Yep.
Because it can actually see it if we compare the prices and the interest rates and what the mortgage numbers actually are compared to, if you go, where are we?
So this is the principal and interest payment,
the
percent as income, the median family income. So again, show you that incomes have gone up. I mean, back in 89, it was 34,000, and in 2020, it was 84,000. From 19 to 2018 to 2020 was up $8,000.
Yeah, but if you look at the principal payment, so in 2020, the average price was $300,200, right? And the payment was $1,035. If you go back to 2006, when houses were 221,000, or you moved it, I'm losing it here. 221,000. Look at that number.
Yeah, the payment was higher.
Your payment was higher, but you're paying less for the house. So my point is, people get fixated on
that rate
price these days. Look at that interest rate. That's another thing, is the interest rates are so low right now. That's what's creating this crazy market too. And
it's just adding to it.
And you can afford more house. You can afford a higher purchase price, not more house. That's the wrong word. You can afford a higher purchase price because of the interest rates. So when people are looking at houses, you got to stop looking at the purchase price. You have to look at what your monthly payment's going to be, and is it affordable to you? And obviously, can you get financing for it? Because in the end, and we saw that with the example with the renter and the buyer, in the end, you're paying way more than the $280,000 that you offered on the house. So you have to stop looking at it. You have to look at the monthly cost to you and what your goals are. If you plan on selling in a few years, or it's your forever home, like there's so many different things to look at. But that initial, like, who cares if you have to go 30, 40, $50,000 over asking price to get the house, if the payment is reasonable for you, if it's, maybe even your forever home, like you can't look at that initial number.
Yeah. And again, you're looking at the overall cost of everything.
Yeah.
You're going to have an appraisal. And the way that the market is now, it's not uncommon to see offers coming in, 20, 30, 40,000. I mean, last year, how often were we seeing 50,000 over the asking price, 20 plus offers? And what's crazy is I thought, honestly, when we got to September, it's like September, October-ish, I kind of felt like that was slowing down, but it wasn't. It was just slowing down for the season, for the holidays and for the winter, which is we were doing any of the year anyways. But because the year before it was kind of so hectic still that it didn't seem to slow down, where it's still hectic. The slowdown this winter was not like, oh, I'm not running around with 10 buyers at the moment. I was still running around with 10 buyers. It's just when we were making offers over the winter, instead of 20 offers, most of the time it was like 3 to 5 offers.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh yeah, it's not so crazy. Things are getting better. It's cool now and not crazy. But then like in the last couple weeks, been making offers, 25 offers, 40 offers. And I'm like, we are right back to it. Back to it.
The numbers on your market update prove that. We were back to over a month of inventory, and we're like, hey, we're killing it. And then now we're back to half a month. So it's really, the numbers show how crazy it is. It's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely crazy. All right. I'm
just like, fuck it. Oh, excuse me. Am I supposed to? Whatever.
Hold on. Hold on here.
It's live. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you never know. This was Springfield. So hold on. So I wanted to show, there was one for Springfield. So 2017 through 2020. Where is it? Because this shows the like metropolitan areas. So this is actually Springfield. Here you go, Springfield, Massachusetts.
I got
This is crazy. Right. Springfield, Massachusetts. In terms of affordability, 206.1.
Wait, what?
In Springfield, Massachusetts, for our area, houses are ridiculously affordable.
Holy, that is a shock to me. I would not. I would have.
But it looks like it's the most expensive Springfield, because Springfield, Illinois is way more in Springfield, Missouri. We're the most expensive Springfield. But, being that high, again, you're showing that Springfield is actually still affordable. That's because the prices are so low.
The prices are so low. Okay.
2020 was over 200.
That's nuts. Yeah. I wouldn't have predicted.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then there was another one I wanted to show. No, not this one. No. Was this it? Okay. All right. So this is inflation adjusted typical mortgage payments. Okay. So we talk about like how expensive things are or were. How come I can't get rid of this thing on the bottom here?
I don't see nothing.
Hold on here. Here we go. I'll just download the whole thing. See if that does something. Bam. Okay. All right. So, bam. All right. So this is inflation adjusted typical mortgage payments for selected metro areas. Of course, this doesn't have the most recent one. But essentially we wanted to show, like, again, how prices were in terms of mortgage payments back around before the market went down, and how affordable they were or are now at this point. This one's not going to be a great graph to show, actually. But what we
Share
can
your
do...
screen. Share your screen.
Oh,
Share your screen.
I thought I was sharing my screen the whole time. No, this one, it's hold on. I guess I'll show it real quick. Hold on here. Now, where the heck did I just put it? Oh, here we go. I'll share the screen. So again, this was just trying to show. This is the typical inflation adjusted typical mortgage payments for different metro areas.
See the bottom of
so,
it. Like, see the bottom
I just did this. Here we go. There we go. All right, so we can see New York, Seattle, Boston's in green, Dallas and Chicago, but you can kind of see the trend went up and then back down and leveled out. There is some increase here.
So we're still doing better than 2006 to 2008 ish.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're killing it right now. All right.
Inflation adjusted figures are.
So stop looking at the purchase price and just buy a house that's affordable to you. That's all I have to say. Stop hesitating when it's like, it really kills me when I have somebody that hesitates on putting a really good offer on the table because, well, they offered, they listed it for 300,000. Why would I give them 350,000? It's like, you got to stop looking at the number.
It's tough. And right now it really is tough to price houses.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough houses to like, there's not like a ton of houses available in terms of like recent sales a lot of times. So our times going back a year or two, or let's say even you go back a year, we already saw that the average price
went up
in Springfield was what, 40,000 something, so $30-something thousand. And so, if you're using the house from last year, the CMA is going to come up based on that pricing, right? And so part of the conversation with the sellers is coming up with a range. And that's usually what we do, is we come up with the price range in terms of what we think the house may be worth somewhere in this range. And then from there, it's explaining to the seller that, it's very likely that it could go above that, depending on how much demand we actually end up in the house. I hate listing a house for like what we think it could go for.
Yeah.
Though I've done it, and with the in terms of what we're doing, as long as it's within something I think that's achievable, then by all means we'll go with that. But typically we want to do something that's within the range, that accounts for the overall condition. And then you just, you hope from there that the market is going to drive the price at that point. And, we're still seeing houses, multiple offers after a day or two,
and
way over the asking price.
Overlist. We need to make that clear.
Yes, it is still possible to overlist. Yeah. It is still possible to overlist.
Because people are smart. They can do research online, see what houses are selling for in the area. And they can see, well, wow, this house listed $50,000 more than the last sale right next door. It's so easy to get that information these days.
Yeah, exactly. It is interesting. The other thing is condition. And because of the way the market is, it's very interesting. Because I don't remember seeing stuff like this really happen the same way before when prices went up. People are really willing to pay for condition. Where I'm seeing in, locations for like multifamilies that I've seen sell, for like 300,000. And whereas I've also seen a 2-family sell, on the same street for like 200 grand. And the one that sold for 300 is like the same house, but just completely done, like nice work, completely top of the line. And what's interesting is that years ago, when the market was crazy like that, we didn't see those big differences in condition, that we see now in terms of what people are willing to pay. When a house is in really nice condition, like it goes crazy in terms of some of the price, to the point where you're surprised, wow, this is really a crazy market. And then, that then makes it tough when you've got, 3 other houses on the street that sold at, 220 to 240. And then there's this one house that sold at 300,000. It's the same house, but it's just completely redone. And then it's like, well, where do we end up pricing? Where do we price ourselves at? Because those other ones sold like a year ago, and the market's up. Is 300 realistic? Probably not, because we don't have that condition, but it's certainly better than what the other ones sold for. And it's having that conversation with the seller, kind of letting them, guiding them, and then letting them, kind of decide with you what you're going to go for. But it's tough. It's
your time.
Yeah. Don't wait because of the price. Yeah. All right. So, article. Arlene, you just had an article on something. Where was that?
BostonAgentMagazine.com.
Look it up, actually.
Yeah, I was asked to write an article because I am the state chair for the Young Professionals Network, and I'd never done it before. I was nervous, and I just wrote from the heart.
Oh snap! Look at this.
You see it? You gotta show it. You gotta share your screen.
Well, I went to the website, Boston Agent Magazine, and guess what? Oh!
Yep. Look at that. I'm so
new era, new agent. March 7th, 2022. So
I basically
Association News. Look at that.
Wrote about the changes within being an agent over the last couple of years because of COVID, all the things that we had to change, and we really embraced technology, and especially like at our association. I did not expect to be where we are now for another 10 years. But we were kind of kicked into having to adapt to the changes that COVID threw at us. So that's basically what I talk about. And how
it was a good article. It was a good article. So they liked it.
Well, it's funny. So I got nervous. I contacted MAR and I was like, I got asked to write this article. Am I allowed to do this? So they said, yeah, let us check it out first. So I sent it to them. And they're like, well, they usually like analytical articles, like breaking down numbers and all that. And I'm like, oh, bad word. And I'm like, I guess so. They're like,
just too emotional.
Yeah, they're like, we love your spirit, but it's like, well, I don't think that's what they're looking for. So I was like, we submitted it anyways, and they were fine.
They took it.
So, yeah, I was like, sweet, I like it.
Yeah, that works.
I was like, analytical. I was like, they don't know me at all. It's like, what am I going to do here?
Awesome. All right. So what else we got? You got anything else you want to go over?
No, we went over a lot.
Did actually. I'm actually surprised we fit that in an hour. I was figuring we might end up going an hour and a half. We were prepared.
We were prepared. That's what happened. You had the agenda.
I had an agenda.
We were ready to go. So we need to keep that up. Have that so we can get through this.
Mm-hmm. I had slides.
We had slides.
I didn't have to remember. We just used the slides.
Yes. Slides.
Hello, how you doing? All right. Okay, so we can wrap it up, or huh?
Anybody have questions? Doesn't matter how. No bad questions. The only bad questions are the ones you know.
So far, no questions so far. Here we go. I think it'll be in about 5 years.
We'll either be
5 years. Yeah.
That is a tough one.
It's tough. It's Tough to say. It's tough to say. So what I will say is, if we're talking about 5 years from now, one, as we've already said, hold on here. Let me share the screen again. Bam. Just over that time period, 12 million new families, 7 million new houses. Short. We've been short. And again, for the next 5 years, we're expecting another, what did I say? 7.3 million new households in the next 5 or 6 years. Okay. We are currently not building enough houses for the number of people that are already out there, and we are currently not building at the rate that we're about to have. So the demand in terms of the number of buyers that are out there, I expect we're still going to have a lack of inventory. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that prices won't change, because the rates are going to be going up. We already know that. As rates go up, houses become less affordable. Now, as we've seen and as we showed, with our current affordability, houses are still affordable, but they could potentially become less affordable. Right. So right now it takes about 17% of the income for the average family in terms of what they make and what they need in order to qualify for the average house. As we see in years past, it was much more than that. So we could still increase costs in terms of rate and not necessarily affect the market in terms of prices coming down, because again, the demand is still there and the affordability is still there. The question is, how long can that really last for? And that we don't know. I can tell you, at least from what I can see, I don't see it changing over the next year unless we see major drastic changes in the rates in terms of like them skyrocketing, or that we just have a massive amount of buyers drop out of the market, or we have a massive amount of inventory hits the market. Now, new inventory hitting the market is definitely possible through foreclosures right now, but because the inventory right now is so low, we have half a month supply in Massachusetts right now. If no new houses come on the market, half the houses in half a month, all the houses would be sold. We could see a large increase in inventory, push our way up to 2 or 3 months, and still be in a seller's market.
Yep.
And again, that could be beneficial to everybody in a sense where the prices won't be dropping. They could maintain, for sellers they can still, maintain the current values. At least they won't be seeing the big gains. They won't have the same advantages that they have now. No closing cost credits. I'm not doing repairs. That stuff will start to go away before we start to see prices change. Mm-hmm. And at least if that's the case, I can't imagine, at least in the next year or two, that we're going to see drastic drop in changes in prices. But who knows, right? None of us have a crystal ball. With some of the stuff that's going around the world, things are completely unpredictable in terms of how we could be affected. I mean, was any of us talking about paying $5 for gas, last year or even 2 months ago? So when you're looking at that, and to me, having that gas go up, I don't know that it's going to cause prices to go down. That could cause the price to go up even more, in terms of sellers holding onto that property. There you go.
Well, to also add,
hopefully that answers most of your question.
Over the 5 years he was asking, but if you look at just numbers, just the information we have, we're 5 million behind in inventory, and I think I've said this in the past. We're 5.24 behind in inventory. If we were to add 500,000 to what we are currently building right now, it would still take us 10 years to catch up to that 5.4 million houses that we're missing. And that's not including the added families that we talked about.
That we're going to get in the next 10 years.
Over the next 10 years.
They'll still be short.
This is just based off this. So we're still going to be short no matter what. So it's really even if the prices were to adjust, there's still going to be this demand
Yeah.
for houses, and it's a matter of when do we really, when is the price of the house is going to level out. I don't see drops anytime soon. I don't see drops in the next decade. I see them either just staying steady, going little blips up, but I can't foresee them going down unless there's such a dramatic change in interest rates.
It's got to be a dramatic change in drop in demand, increase in inventory.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I think we're going to start to see way more, which we've already been talking about for a while, is multi-generational housing. I really think it's gonna we've been seeing it a lot, and I think it's really going to hit hard a lot more, where people are just going to move in with family members. Older couples may even have younger families living with them, family members and stuff
Big
like
business.
that.
Big
We're
business
starting to
to
see it.
invest in is therapy, because people are going to be messed up living with their
Therapy.
families. So there's going to be increase in people going to therapy.
Yeah. Well,
with their families.
Well, the medical could be related to housing. There is this thing actually that I've seen is residential assisted living homes, residential assisted living facilities. So basically what people are doing is they're purchasing single family homes, and then they're renting them out to a private assisted living, nursing facility or whatnot, that will bring a team of people to the house, right? And then they rent
People
it
have
out
their
to
own
like
rooms.
4 or 5 different
Yeah.
people that will live there. And because there's not enough, nursing homes right now, and so the people who also would prefer to live in a residential neighborhood versus a building situation.
Doing it. I want that.
Yeah, and there are some companies that are actually building single family homes specifically in neighborhoods just to set these assisted living facilities up.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And they're renting them out for like $20,000 to $30,000 a month.
Yeah, because I would say, I'd come across the idea many times of people
Yeah.
buying houses and renting rooms out to college kids, but I'm like,
Oh,
I don't want to deal with no
medical.
college kids. I
Yeah,
don't
this
want
is
to deal
all
with the mess. I don't
medical.
want
Yeah.
nothing. So this is actually more reasonable.
More reasonable. And the insurance, it's ultimately insurance. I mean, obviously there's certain requirements and all that stuff, and
Yeah, of
you
course.
have to have a company that knows what they're doing to run the organization and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, this is something
You
I
think
saw.
I'm gonna buy a house and just throw some old people
Start
in there
running it yourself.
You think that's what I was
Pick up
gonna
a pack of Band-Aids and
Y'all be
tank
fine.
of CO2. That's all I need, some
Put food in
oxygen.
the bowl and be like, if you're hungry, there, right there.
That's
Oh
funny.
my God.
All right. Well, hopefully everyone got some good information from us today. I saw a few people pop in and out. We got some likes. And if anybody has any questions in the future, always reach out to us. You can go ahead and call or text at HeSellsHouses, at Arlene the Realtor, Massachusetts and Connecticut. And yeah, let's wrap it up.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.